Alarm NBA DFS show with John Impemba and James Grande.
What is going on, FA Nation? John Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS Game Day Playbook Preview Show. We're here for Friday in-season tournament Friday. 8 games on the main slate, including both 10 p.m. games. 2 hours between the 8 p.m. and then the 10 p.m. start time. So get ready for a long night for those who are playing the 10 p.m. games, which are Dallas, Denver, Sacramento, LA. Big news in that Dallas-Denver game. Luka Doncic is going to miss, what they say, a couple weeks with the wrist injury that he's dealing with.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
A week. They're going to reevaluate him in a week, I think.
So you gotta miss at least a week. And then Nikola Jokic is questionable with the personal things that he is going through here. Hasn't played in 3 games. Didn't go through practice, like you said, on Thursday. So there's a chance that he is not active for this game as well. But if we don't get that news, now we have gotten that news earlier in the day, thankfully. So hopefully that continues to hold true. But that's kind of a big deal, not knowing whether or not Jokic plays or not at a 10 p.m. game when there's 2 hours between the next latest game there. Can certainly impact roster construction, especially when you have Giannis at 12-1. How many people, if we don't have the Jokic news, are just going to play Giannis against Indiana at 12-1? You know, could be a day where you just wonder if you're willing to take the risk, save yourself some outs to rebuild some lineups for the late slate. Maybe you get a sub 10% roster Nikola Jokic on your team.
Yeah. It's definitely an appealing thought. Obviously, Giannis coming off the game that he is coming off as well is definitely going to attract people to play him at 12-1, but I don't disagree. I think there's obvious reasons in tournaments in general, right? Like that's the risk you are willing to take in tournaments sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are going into it with that approach, then you should probably, pre-build your lineup where, okay, if this doesn't happen by, the early window, that game's at 8, the Bucks game. Well, I have these pivots I'm already prepared for, because you don't want to not have it and then oh, I wasn't prepared, and now I'm screwed.
For sure. And we'll talk about some of that roster construction as we go through. We go game by game, position by position here, rather, and break it all down for you. We do appreciate those of you who are new and tuning in. Hit that like, that subscribe, and that share button. It's a free way to support our show here at Fantasy Alarm. Again, we go live every day at 5 p.m. Eastern time. We do the pre-recorded show, giving you our first takes, first looks at the slate each and every night as well to get you guys all ready to go. It's been an interesting Thursday slate. You and I talked a lot about Charlotte, Detroit, and the lack of kind of ownership that was going towards that game for a little bit, and then all the news sort of broke. We got Diabate in the lineup, and he ended up being mega chalk. LaMelo Ball was super popular. That game goes to overtime, so extra points are being scored. Brandon Miller, once Miles Bridges got ruled out, a lot of ownership ended up going towards Charlotte in that game there. San Antonio and Utah was a very popular game from a value standpoint. Some of that value, at least as we're recording, hasn't necessarily come through, and we are still waiting on the 10:30 Lakers Magic game to start. The Minnesota game, Toronto, is actually kind of interesting. It's been a little competitive for a period there. Some good production. So that's the Thursday slate. Talking Friday here, James. Point guard position again. Luka is out. Kyrie Irving is $9,800. De'Aaron Fox, $9,400. James Harden, $93. Trae Young, $92 against Chicago. Steph Curry at $91 against the Pelicans. That's your top 5 point guards here on this slate. We've talked Kyrie Irving a lot when there's no Luka Doncic. Is he an automatic for you? Where do you find yourself now breaking these down?
I mean, he's obviously in play. I'm not willing to say he's automatic because we have a lot of star power on the slate, but obviously he's as good as it gets. We saw him last week without Luka. He was disappointing. I'm not going to hold that really against him. That was that random PJ Washington like nuke where second leg of a back-to-back, no one expected PJ Washington to do what PJ Washington did. And then it's like, oh, sure. So definitely good with getting to Kyrie. Tougher to get to De'Aaron Fox, despite how good he's been with Sacramento, basically fully healthy.
Yep.
And the Clippers just with endless amounts of good defensive wings and players that they could throw at Fox. Trey Young is definitely in a great spot. He has been really disappointing lately.
Yeah, yes.
Incredibly disappointing from a fantasy perspective. Now the price is coming down. We've seen a massive ceiling on Trey Young, but like this, it's the problem is the scoring. Everything else is perfectly fine. He
Yep.
just hasn't made shots. So we know Trey Young's going to make shots. This is definitely a shot making spot for anybody that is anybody. So I'm good going to Trey in tournaments. Will the Pelicans have able bodies is the question. Brandon Ingram's questionable. CJ McCollum is listed doubtful. Jordan Hawkins could be returning here. He's questionable. Ives Messi is questionable. So like they could have some regulars. We know Trey Murphy's playing. Can they keep it close? That game is just 10. Leads me to believe that Vegas is thinks Brandon Ingram is going to play because
Yeah.
there's no way that's a 10-point spread if Brandon Ingram doesn't play.
Yeah.
So if you think that game can stay close, Curry obviously has a ceiling. I mean, dude, he went for 45 fantasy points in 30 minutes, right? They put Curry back in the game in the fourth quarter, and then they just started to rout Atlanta again, and he just got immediately taken out. So I'm good with Curry in tournaments as well. I think, and honestly, probably cash games, especially if Ingram plays.
Yeah.
It's mostly a tournament tier for me. I didn't mention Harden. I didn't omit him on purpose. He's also in the same boat as everyone else as well.
Yeah, and listen, we talked Harden in that Orlando game, right? Like that was going to be a tough matchup for him. He took 12 free throws, hit 11 of them, but only managed 39 fantasy points in that game. And that's what happens when you have some of these tougher spots. Harden in this particular thing going up against the Kings. I mean, like they're no walk in the park usually.
No.
Either. So do you think he's probably gonna get? Do you think they just throw Keegan on him? Or like, what do you think they do defensively here?
Yeah. He always guards the other team's
Apparently
best
the best
player.
team.
So
Right.
yeah, I mean, and that's I think the versatility of Keegan Murray in general, right? He can just go guard James Harden. Like he's 6'10. That's not like normal for 6'10 players to just like go guard James Harden type athletes, but that also nightmare time for Harden trying to get shots up over him.
Dame is $8,900. Came back a couple slates ago, obviously from that concussion. He's been looking pretty good. Double doubles in both games, 38 and 41 fantasy points. It's obviously hard to have a huge ceiling when Giannis is doing what Giannis is doing, but Pacers certainly present a pretty good matchup for him. You got Murray. We'll have to see probably what happens with Jokic there. Maxey returned, played just 20 minutes in that game. I would imagine his minutes go up. And then we have the Halliburton question again. Well, he was not very good against Houston. We projected him not to be very good against Houston. Milwaukee is not a good defensive team. He's $8,100. If you get 40 at 81, you're actually pretty happy. That's like a 5x play. Do you think there's a ceiling spot here for Halliburton against the Milwaukee Bucks?
I mean, there can be. This is a great game. 236 implied points, 5-point spread. Where did Tyrese Halliburton make his name last year, John? In-season tournament.
Yep.
Right? I mean, that they made the miracle run into the final.
He played hurt, right? And that was the whole thing.
So like, yeah, I mean, there's a ceiling. I look at this tier. I think this tier in general, other than like Dame, is really just not appealing to me.
Okay.
I look at Halliburton and I'm like, why wouldn't I just spend down to Van Vliet? Excuse me. Had a little again allergy day. I know, still killing me. But Van Vliet's $900 cheaper and has just been significantly the better player, right? I mean, he has just, regardless of like, we were talking about like, oh, he's finally starting to make shots. That hasn't even really mattered lately. He hasn't even made shots at like an elite clip, but he's taking a bunch. And you and I have talked about that a lot, where he falls into these like games where he's not shooting. Well, he is shooting a lot right now, and the peripheral stats are great. So when I look at Halliburton and Maxey and like that tier in general, like Murray, especially if won't know about Jokic.
Yeah.
If we do know that Jokic is out, then yes, you can get Jamal Murray. But like a lot of it's just like, when I can just play a too cheap Van Vliet against a Portland team that has Scoot Henderson questionable, Anthony Simons questionable, DeAndre Ayton doubtful.
Yeah.
3 starters / 3 of their top 6. And I'm not saying that that might not stay competitive.
Yeah.
But in-season tournament game number 3 for a lot of these teams. Like the differential, I think this is where we see.
Yeah,
Because I remember,
yeah.
yeah, and I think this is the part. The last 2 games is where we see teams start running up scores and just having players stay on the floor. Because I remember last year, Udoka leaving Şengün out there for like 42 minutes in like a 20-point win or a 20-point loss. I forget which one it was, but I was shocked because I think it was like Denver, Houston in the in-season tournament, and they played like 40-something minutes in a 20-point win or loss, and I was like, all right, this is cool because people just are taking it serious.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna play Van Vliet and get 40 minutes incoming here.
On the point spread thing here.
Okay.
You mentioned Atlanta's gets Chicago.
Yep.
The Celtics are a game behind Atlanta and also 10 points behind Atlanta.
Okay, so they need to smash Washington.
They need to win and then smash Washington here. And hope Chicago can get a win against Atlanta.
Wait, so the Atlanta game that they won in Boston was the in-season tournament?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so Boston this is a 40-minute night for a Boston start.
That's right.
Against Washington.
Feels that way. Feels like because they Boston and Cleveland are both tied 1-1. Boston just beat Cleveland, so they have the head tiebreaker here. So they need an Atlanta loss, and then Boston needs to win, but win big to jump the point differential.
Sure.
So something to think about as we talk about the Celtics here and the in-season tournament things. Obviously, Derek White 69, Poole 7K. Poole had that huge game against Boston earlier this year. He hit like 8 threes in that game or something like that. 6 threes in the first quarter against them. So don't know how much you can trust that again, but he is there. Brandon Boston let the world down, $6,900. Daniels $6,800 here. We know obviously what he can bring to the table. Did play the 31 minutes. No stocks. Little unlikely to repeat itself in that game. McCain, Schroeder, Kobe White in this range. Like, what are we doing with this 6K tier?
Yeah, I mean, Poole's interesting in tournaments always. The minutes have been kind of disappointing for Jordan Poole. Could that be Malcolm Brogdon? Could that be blowouts? Could be that be a combination of both, right?
Sure.
Derek White, 69, is great. I mean, 41 and 42 minutes the last 2 games. If we're going to get in-season tournament minutes from Boston, then we could see 50 fantasy points from Derek White. It wouldn't surprise me. We know Dyson Daniels is going to play 40 minutes. We know he's going to guard Zach LaVine or Kobe White or combination of both, maybe both on one possession, right? So, yeah, I mean, he's going to play big minutes as long as it stays competitive. 242.5 points implied in this game. Yeah. 242.5.
You know why?
Yeah, I mean,
Boston has to score 140 points in this game.
No. This is Atlanta, Chicago. I moved on to the Great Barrier Thief.
I thought you talked White already. Go
ahead. So the Great Barrier Thief, I think, is perfectly fine. I like Kobe White on the other side of that matchup in tournaments. He's probable to go. The Brooklyn thing, Cam Thomas is probable. So and Schroeder. I guess McCain's a little bit interesting. You factor in one, Maxey's going to be limited, whether it's more than 18 or not. It's not going from like 18 to 30 or 35 right off the bat. I think probably in the mid 20s would be a safe number for Tyrese Maxey. But there's no Paul George. So you have limited Maxey, no Paul George, and Embiid, right? And then Jared McCain. So McCain played 40 minutes last game. I'd be okay with it. I don't love the Brooklyn spot only because Brooklyn plays so incredibly slow and it's just boring how they play.
Mhm.
They just like stay competitive because it's so boring. So, but I mean, I'm good with getting to McCain. So, and then Josh Giddey, just I've already seen enough. I'm done with this guy.
Yeah, not great. Brogdon did start the other day. Again, not really playing a bunch of minutes, but he did start. Got Hawkins may come back. Sharp, I guess, if there's nobody, right?
Yes.
I mean, he's been good, but if they're also now down Scoot and Simons and whatnot, like we would certainly in a really tough spot. Obviously, it's Houston, but would have some additional opportunities there. Got Carrington. Holiday was what we expected against Cleveland there at his price point. Banton is at 51. What do we think as we work into the value tier?
Yeah, I mean, Sharp. It would for me. It would be Sharp and Banton. Obviously, if there's a blowout or if there's injuries everywhere. Also, I'm not just like going to overlook the Russell Westbrook triple double from last game, where
Yeah.
if we don't know, I mean, we won't know, but like 32 minutes, they closed with him. If he's doing this again at 5,500, I mean, we're getting Nikola Jokic at $5,500. So that's hard to obviously predict. He hasn't been necessarily like that version of Russell Westbrook very often, but
Mhm.
he is at times that version. Like we see glimpses. So I'm good with it. Drew only got the 20 minutes. I thought he would play more in the Cleveland game. He didn't. Joe Mazzulla doesn't care. Um, Pritchard, same boat. I think as Drew. Like I think both Boston guys. Like if you end on them, they're fine. I'm a little indifferent about both. Here's the one that's interesting. If New Orleans doesn't have some guys back, do they just start Alfred Payton again?
Hey, I wouldn't see why not. If they don't
Well,
have
because
guards,
you could just start. You could technically because you could just start Reeves, who had 34.
sure.
Didn't turn it over once, had 34, 14 of 25 shooting.
Mhm.
I guess if Elf were to start at $4,000, I mean he has a very high ceiling just because he's very good peripherally.
Yep. Yeah, he was a
But I guess
minus 21 in that game, is what someone had said.
that's
So
that's good. That's good.
wasn't great there. KPJ only played 20 minutes. Dunn played 25 for the Clippers. McConnell played 20, got 27 fantasy points because that's what he does in that game. Keon Ellis had the 9 threes. I don't think we'll see that again, but that was quite impressive to see. 50 actual from Keon Ellis in that game.
Yeah.
They started Quentin Jackson,
Yeah,
4K.
he nuked. I mean, very I mean, you know,
I know.
like Shepard I
Trevor's back,
guess
right?
what?
Is Shepard out or back? Is he back?
He's questionable. So
Okay.
like I mean him and Jarris Walker are both questionable.
Mm-hmm.
So if both sit, Quentin Jackson's starting. Right? That was kind of sewed up. Quentin Jackson just starts this game if
Seems that way.
yeah.
Would you chase it?
I'm not convinced in a competitive game McConnell doesn't play over him.
Okay. What do we do with Dallas? There's obviously Hardy here. We'll talk about Dinwiddie and Quentin Grimes.
We don't need to talk about Dinwiddie.
Okay. Hardy and Quentin Grimes then.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about Dinwiddie. It's just a lost cause. Yeah, I think Hardy has probably the higher ceiling, like scoring, and then Grimes probably starts. That would probably be my assessment of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you need to do either thing. Hardy's not like free anymore. You need 20 fantasy points, and even when he's been extended, he hasn't gotten you there.
Sure.
Um,
I mean, the
but
extension on this game could be 30 minutes, though. Not necessarily, right? Like, I know Luka was out. He played 24 or whatever, 22. So.
yeah, 24. I mean, again, I'm not entirely against it. I'm also just kind of indifferent about it. I feel like there's going to be better value that opens up.
Okay. Shooting guard again. There's Kyrie here at 98. We talked about him. We got Brandon Ingram returning potentially $9,000. Jaylen Brown, Zach LaVine, who had a huge game the other night, certainly could have another big one here against Atlanta. Among the top guys we haven't yet discussed.
I would say with a lot of certainty that Zach LaVine's pretty popular here.
240 total at home against Atlanta.
That would be my guess. Is he's like the most popular in this range, and it's like not particularly close.
Okay.
And then you can of course you can play Ingram if you think that game stays competitive, right?
Sure.
It's just what he can do. He can break a slate.
A lot of these other guys we've already talked about at shooting guard. Is there anybody of note that you want to just highlight here?
I mean, Jalen Green. I like Jalen Green's price for like his ceiling, but I don't necessarily think we need to go there. Christian Brown was really good again. 2 of the 3 games without Jokic, he's been surprisingly really good. The minutes, the scoring has just been as consistent.
Nothing really changed with his scoring. So is it just like the assists maybe? Like because he's pretty consistently like 7 for whatever on a night-to-night basis here.
Rebounds, assists. Yeah, I mean, he had 5 steals and a 3 steal game in back-to-back. So that's fair.
He's been very good. He's been very good, very steady. Right.
He's been very good, very steady overall, producing in multiple categories. Clay was really good, and that obviously was trending towards a really big Clay game. Yeah. If that doesn't just go to absolute crap for the Pelicans. 32 fantasy points in 24 minutes. He's going to have plenty of opportunity. He's going to shoot and shoot and shoot some more. So we'll see if he has fed the ball. We talk Shaedon Sharp. I'd assume Hawkins would be on some type of limitation. Amen Thompson. I mean, just a tough game in general.
Foul trouble right away. In that game.
Just a tough game for him. So if you want to go back to the well there, you can. And then we just like get into the value tier.
Ogden got 23 minutes, took 14 shots.
He did. I don't hate the minutes. Atlanta's actually just healthy now.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it just depends on what you think of like where his minutes ceiling can be. Played 28 in the opener. Is that the ceiling? Can he go past that? On like when they're super healthy. And then I mean, dude, let's say for just argument's sake, Hawkins sits. McCollum sits. You have Murphy, you have Ingram, you have Boston, you have Messi. Is there a legit chance that Reeves is your 5th starter in that scenario?
I mean, it's certainly possible, but do you think... I mean, we saw the minutes that the Cleveland core starters played. They all played like 20 and were out. And Reeves is obviously playing early and hitting shots. Like he went nuclear against, the backups, right? So do you think against a Golden State team on an in-tournament day that Antonio Reeves is out here knocking down 14 of 25? I don't.
I mean, I'm just honestly like, I am just simply throwing out the possibility of it because if you're Willie Green, right? You're Willie Green.
Yeah.
He was a 2nd-round draft pick this year. You signed Elf off the street, or like everyone, right? Brandon Boston signed off. The Clip didn't really play for the Clippers the last couple of years.
Well, we know for sure Trey Murphy is playing.
Well, Murphy, Ingram, Messi. For sure, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my thing is like, do we? But other 25 shots aren't there. Ingram and Murphy play.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, if they're down to 10-day contract guys again, then that's fine. But again, they had nobody else to score. Brandon Boston, I showed you his shot chart, was missing bunnies, all game. Yeah. JRE was like their 2nd best scorer on that team. Like, they needed anybody to launch, and Reeves was just hot against, again, the backups were playing for Cleveland, and then their backups came in, and Reeves hit 10 shots. So you got Grimes here at 42. As you mentioned, Hardy and Grimes probably going to split the minutes. Maybe Grimes plays more. Inconsistent player throughout the course of his career. That's kind of the deal with him.
Yep.
Zaire played 17 minutes in Charlotte. Disappointed, obviously.
Yep.
Difficult to try to get there. Jackson started, but
twice in a row. Yeah, he's because AJ Green made a billion shots.
He's right. So hard to go there. Green's here, but has to hit all of his shots for any sort of value.
Yep.
Got Straw there.
He lost that game because Westbrook, right? Like he plays 20 minutes, didn't make his shots. Westbrook came in and just dominated the game.
Yep.
So
agreed. I got nothing else down here though.
Lindy Waters keeps starting.
Yeah, that's fair. Where is he?
He's $3,600.
Oh yeah.
Right under Straw there. It's been decent. I mean, those are not bad numbers for the price, right? 28 and 23 minutes, 20 and 18, and also plays in an offense where
let's not forget.
That game was
against New Orleans.
That game was absolutely bonkers. And I think there is, maybe Lindy Waters is the one taken off the floor. If it's, if Steve Kerr's looking at this situation like, all right, in-season tournament. Actually, you know what? I'm going to stop there. Steve Kerr's not thinking about anything but playing all 12 guys. So my point was going to be irrelevant. Anyway.
Small forward, JT 10-4. Tough match against Cleveland, be damned. He went for 65. 33, 12, and 7. He hit 6 threes. Good luck, Washington, on that matchup for you, sir. Again, if you want to play JB, you can. JB had a fine day. You saw Derek White and you saw Jason Tatum have the better performances because, hey, it's Boston. Al Horford hit 5 threes in that game. I think it was something like that. So, that's the breaks. Jaylen Brown could easily have 50 in this one. DDR returning at 77. Talked Levine already. MPJ 72. Cam J, if there's no Cam T, had a monster performance there. So some mid-tier options for us at small forward.
Yeah, you could play JT against anyone at this point. Little indifferent about it. Brown is always in play in tournaments. DeRozan coming back from a back injury. I know he's not on the injury report, and that's great. Don't love this spot. I just don't like people against the Clippers, really, just with the length that they have. Sure. They have a lot of good for whatever the Clippers are going to be this year. They are going to be annoying to every team they play. One, because that wall that they play with their home arena, and two, the lengthy defenders that they have. I mean, now that they're starting Chris Dunn, it's just length on length on length, right? Mm-hmm. They just are super annoying defensively. So, and DeRozan coming off the back, like Levine. You and I actually talked about it on the stream. That game, that second Memphis-Denver game was hilarious. Nobody wanted to play anyone that sucked the first time. And then everyone that sucked the first game was great the second game. And it's because we shouldn't be basing our analysis on one bad game for people, right? They scored 32 extra points the second time around, and Michael Porter dominated. So if you want to play Michael Porter, if there's no Jokic, by all means do so. He has a really high ceiling, as we've seen.
We've played this price with Jokic before too. So
we have.
Not really a terrible spot because there's no Aaron Gordon still. So it's not.
Actually, I think I saw there was an upgrade to his status. Okay, no, there wasn't. I saw something earlier
He's still
today.
By the way, and he's small forward only. So thanks, DraftKings, weirdly, for doing that.
That's just them just not caring while he's out, right?
Yeah.
He's just
because MPJ is small forward, power forward, Aaron Gordon small forward only. Sure. Mentioned Cam Thomas. Obviously, he was out, and we said it the entire day. We said it on the stream. We said it to each other. We kept looking at ownership, and we're like,
Brooklyn.
Why is everybody playing Brooklyn? I don't understand it. I don't get it. Why is everybody doing it? You and I went against it. We're like, we're not playing Brooklyn. Forget it. We're going the other way. And everybody in Brooklyn smashed. Cam Johnson knocked down 6 threes. He had 52 fantasy points. Schroeder was great. Ben Simmons is great. DFS was great. Like they were all good with Cam Thomas out of the lineup. I guess if Cam Thomas doesn't play, we have to run it back. I mean, our guy played 38 minutes.
He did.
Shooting has never been a problem for Cameron Johnson. It's been health. So
it has not. It has not. Yeah, I mean, like there's always the chance, like Cam Thomas is listed probable. There's always chance that like that flares up again, right? Because we had talked about it all day, like popping up on the report, probable, right.
And
but he
questionable,
and then yes, and then as soon as it went questionable, you're like, oh, okay, he's done. Like he's not playing in this game. So just follow the news throughout the day. If Cam Thomas plays, I don't want anything to do with Cam Johnson at 6,600. Sure. But like, he is a very streaky shooter, and if Cam Thomas once again declines, then yeah, I'm interested here.
Sure. Ben Mathurin is still in the mid sixes here. Yep. Obviously, Houston game, not great. We expected it again to be a bit of a struggle there against Houston. Most teams do struggle against Houston. Even Giannis for a long time in that game was not doing well against Houston.
Right.
It's got Milwaukee now, though. Not a good defensive team. More probable than not, we get some of these performances back at now a $6,400 price tag for Ben Mathurin here. Feels that way, right?
Yeah, I mean, dude, he is just such a high. That game sucked, right? That game just sucked for Indiana specifically. It was great for Houston and Alperen Şengün for 3 quarters. Mathurin is a great rebounder. He's a great scorer. He stunk last game. He has a really good matchup here. No worries whatsoever with him.
Yep, I agree. No worries for me either. There is Murphy at 59. We know he can be a bucket. He'll play a lot of minutes. We know that Golden State's a pretty good defensive team as well. So not any other matchup probably at this price point. He's probably pretty good. Are you still playing him even with the matchup?
Yeah, I think we saw that they just want his minutes to be right. Sure. Right? They just want him to ramp up. If you don't, if we didn't see that in a 40-point loss against Dallas on the front leg of a back-to-back, then I think that wouldn't be the case. But they just, and he also, like you said, can shoot them into the game or like keep them in the game just with the shooting. So yeah, I'm good with Murphy. I'm like not totally like sold that it's like the best play ever, but I'm definitely not against it.
All right. Again, I think Clay will probably get some ownership. Tari Eason, second in the NBA in steals despite being a bench player. Has had 10 steals in the last 2 games. Obviously had 7 stocks against Milwaukee. Tournaments. Play him if you want. Got Portland here. Could be an extended Tari Eason game against Portland if they go for a blowout.
Dude, he is. It does not matter. It does not matter if he's extended or not. Look at this guy. It's salute to you, Tari Eason. Salute to you. You're a magic maker.
Agreed. Wiggins at 54 is fine. If you want to get there, you can.
He was great. He was great the other night.
Yeah, no, he's been really good. Again, it's more so if this game blows out, I guess you don't know what's going to happen, but he's had a couple of 40-point games there. DeAndre Hunter played 25 minutes in that game. Probably could have played more had it been closer. Wasn't terrible. What else we got here? What did Ricochet end up doing? 19. So he's the one probably losing out, or do you?
Yeah. Yep. I mean, they also got blown out, so it's hard to necessarily project. But yeah, with Bogdanović and Hunter back, I mean, there's just going to be people losing.
Jalen Wilson played 34 minutes. If there's no Cam Thomas.
Yeah, if there's no Cam Thomas.
You called out Coffee as the one starting, and he did. He was pretty good.
He was really good. 33 minutes, 25 fantasy points. Like, we've often crapped on Amir Coffee in like past life, right? Like just like with what Amir Coffee has been. Right. But like just different roles now, right? I think Norm's already ruled out, no?
Yeah, Yeah, I missed like a
So
couple of weeks or something.
so I mean, there's no reason to think that Amir Coffey won't start. It is a low floor. He's also shooting 46% from three this year.
Mhm.
So he's also closing, and he's been closing for like weeks now, right? Over Terrence Mann, over Derek Jones. Like they just play Amir Coffey down the stretch. So yeah, I mean it's a perfectly fine 4K play. It's not like this gotta have it play, but it's a play.
They dropped Derek Brooks all the way down to 3,800. Huh?
I
Losing
mean,
out. He's losing out minutes.
well,
21 to
he
20.
also got in big foul trouble the other day, and he, but he is also lose. Like both those things are true.
Mhm. All right, power forward. Giannis is 12-1. We talked about it. If you want to play up for the Greek
Yeah.
Freak, go for it. Certainly
Yep.
not going to stop you. He is as elite, and he's the obvious pivot. If you don't get any Jokic news, basically the same price point, play center together.
Yep.
You can go there. Tatum, we talked. Jalen Johnson returned 35 minutes, 45 fantasy points, double against Golden State.
Good at basketball.
Good at basketball. Great spot against Chicago as well. $8,300. Great price. Siakam gets Milwaukee. Had that matchup against Houston. Again, team struggle against Houston. He was not great.
Yes.
He'll be better here against Milwaukee, probably.
Agreed.
Let's see. Draymond, you were high on Draymond. He was not bad. 9-7, 9-2-1, 28 minutes. I guess we just worry about the 28 minutes because this game feels like it may be the same way Atlantic turned out.
Yeah, that's the only worry, right? Draymond, you're like, oh, might get a triple double, might get a double double, might get 40 fantasy. Dude, he has just been good. Like I'm just gonna flat out say it. I don't think it's a coincidence either that Golden State is really good, like randomly really good.
Yeah.
And Draymond's resurging, right? Like we haven't heard him in the news for any stupid stuff, like any chokeholds. He's not punching teammates. Like he's just being really good. That's why they won how many championships they won. Like he was as key as anyone else. So
He gets to 40 if he actually hits his threes. The first
dude,
game in a
he
while.
gets to 40 if he makes threes, and he's been making threes. So yeah, I mean, if you think that game can stay competitive, Draymond Green is live for 40 fantasy points, and his price is not moving.
Yep. All right. Where we go next here? A lot of these other guys, their value's kind of dipping a little bit.
PJ. I mean, no Luca. We saw it. Like again, it's hard to just like sit here and say, well, he had that one game without Luca.
Right.
Like Kyrie was bad in that game, so like they could just roll reverse and suddenly like it doesn't work like that. But I do think he is in line, obviously, for a bigger role offensively. We've seen him handle that role as well.
Yep, agreed. So he could go there, no doubt about it. Again, I mentioned Eason and Murphy already. Wiggins good. Lyles no more with DeRozan and Sabonis back. Sarr, Watson, and Sarge probably take a little bit of a hit if Jokic is back there.
Yep.
JRE probably the same situation. If guys are active, he probably takes a little bit of a hit. Rob Will maybe auditioning for a backup center job with Houston here.
He's auditioning. Yes, no, they got Steven Adams and Jock. They're
Do
good.
they have Steven Adams? Like that guy the guy's never active. It feels like
he's playing every other. It's like they have an every other game backup center.
Sure.
Adams and then sits the next game, and then Jock plays the next game. It's a crazy scenario they got, but yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of interesting names here, including Rob Will, because the ceiling. Dorian Finney-Smith questionable, John. There's our Zaire Williams / Jalen Wilson pivots, right? Zaire started for Dorian Finney-Smith the last couple times he sat.
Yeah.
We had a lot of. I think it was Icy Through You in our chat talking about Jabari Smith the other day, and we've said it too. If he makes shots, there is a ceiling.
He also benefited from Amon's down performance.
Sure, but the thing about him, at least this year specifically, is anytime that he has made shots, not a lot, has not made a lot of shots, but when he has stayed on the floor. And if if you're playing multiple lineups at 4,600, that's at least notable. And then Torrey Craig, dude, 17 minutes this year. You messaged me the winning lineup in the 100K, played a $3,000 Torrey Craig. So, like, obviously this is not $3,000 anymore. But why isn't, if they started him against Giannis and played him 28 minutes, are they not going to do that against Jalen Johnson as well? It's just they're going to run their same starting lineup right back out there again.
Yep. And he's had these games more time, and we never play him. And then we always look at the end of the night, we're like, damn, it was a Torrey Craig day.
It was a Torrey Craig.
He was on like Phoenix or something like that. He's like, what happened? He had 40? Yeah, agreed. Obi not there. Yabusele, because there's no
Paul George.
Oh, Paul George.
He'd have to start for me, but you're not wrong. He's super, but it's like very inconsistent. He either is like, there's like nothing middling. He is smashing or he's doing quite literally nothing.
Yeah, I mean,
look at these games, dude. He's nuking or he's just like not playing. He just might as well not be.
What if they start him at the 4 though?
If they start him at the 4, then sure. Like they did like a. I mean, I guess that's Maxey, McCain, Martin,
Gabo, Embiid.
Yeah, I mean that could work. I don't know if they would.
Otherwise, they would put Oubre back in the starting lineup.
Probably Oubre back in the starting lineup.
So just saying, could happen. Center. Joker's here. Obviously, we would play him if he is in. I mean, he has been ridiculous.
Yes.
92, 71, 82, 72. Last 4 games. Ridiculous. I did tell you that it was coming. 35 minutes. 35 minutes. 14 of 14 from the line. 35 and 11.
And now he's looking for a snitch.
I don't know
if you saw those reports.
I saw. He's like, the meeting was 30 seconds. Nobody said anything. This is crap. Like, is what he said there.
Yeah, well, Paul George on his podcast said complete different.
Yeah, well, know, again, JoJo's tired of being in Philadelphia. However, he is also not a 10-1 center. So,
he's good.
He is really good. Brooklyn, no Nick Claxton.
Yep.
And are you going to tell me they're going to stop Ben Simmons against Joel Embiid?
Actually, Claxton is questionable.
Okay. I thought he was missing like a week. Is the week over?
Yeah, week's over. Week's over. Okay. Yeah. He practiced in full on Thursday. He's questionable.
Well, I'm still less worried about Nick Claxton here in this spot.
No, I think that's the game we needed to see from Embiid to be like, now if that's the guy, 35 minutes, 20 shots, 14 of 14 from the line, still hasn't missed a free throw in 4 games.
Yeah. Yep.
Double. That guy is $2,000 too cheap. Right? I mean, that is Jokic. That is a Jokic price or a Jokic player in a price tag that is not.
Remember, last year he was giving us 65 in 25 minutes, right? Like he was just that crushing.
Yeah.
Taking Paul George out of the equation is going to open up for this offense, especially if Maxey's still ramped, right? Yep. Like if Maxey's not playing 35 and there's no Paul George, you have McCain playing 35 minutes and you have Embiid playing 35 minutes. Joel Embiid's going to take 20 shots. This is what he's going to do. He probably takes it anyways when everybody's healthy, but again, we should be wanting more Joel Embiid here. Okay. You have Sabonis returning. We know that he's just been locked in for a whole lot of minutes. Can project him for 45 plus fantasy points if you want to. That's fine. I would rather find the $300 to get to Joel Embiid if you had me choose. I obviously Şengün can smash. I'm just worried about a non-competitive game. I get it. It wasn't competitive against Indiana and he had 52. We were also a little worried about the fouls early in that game, but he came back and had no problems.
No, he did not.
So we're not going to say not to play Şengün, obviously.
Also, I think again, we should maybe take the blowout stuff with a grain of salt, depending on the in-season tournament.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. Vuk against Atlanta feels like it could be a good spot for him here.
Price going down.
Yep.
For no reason.
Well, I'll take it.
Same.
Zubac there. Turner. Brooke Lopez. Giannis Light over here. 4 more stocks after a 7-stock game. 40, 59, and 56 in 3 of the last 4. He had the 37 fantasy point game here. 6K is too cheap, but this is what we're getting out of Brooke Lopez now.
It sure is. I don't really know. This was 2 years ago, Brooke Lopez, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is when he was blocking all the shots and he finished second defensive player of the year, and we're like, oh,
yeah,
they're just using him in drop and he's blocking every shot. And that's what they're doing again, where they're just using him in drop coverage and he's blocking every shot again. So yeah, I mean, we know the peripheral stats are going to be pretty consistent. The rebounds never, but everything else is pretty consistent. If we're scoring like this, forget it. Like you said, he's going to have a high ceiling often.
Yep, agreed.
Ben Simmons is in Philly here.
That's why I said Ben. That's why I didn't know about the Claxton thing. I thought Claxton was still out. I was like, are they really going to start Ben Simmons at the 5 against Joel Embiid in Philadelphia?
Yep, I was there. I remember that conversation. I was there.
Do you think he doesn't play?
There's currently a 50% chance of that happening.
All of a sudden, you get a Nick Claxton probable and a Ben Simmons questionable.
It is legitimately live to happen that way. It is absolutely on the table.
It would be. He would never be able to live it down. It'd be like when Kyrie refused to come back to Boston, like his first couple trips back when he was with like the Nets. He was just out and like didn't play in Boston. He'd play against the Celtics in Brooklyn, but wouldn't play them in Boston for like the first 2 times they were scheduled to return. And people were like, "Are you kidding me? Really?" It'd be something if they had that happen there. Now again, they've obviously played against each other since then, but I like the story. Capella 53. I mean, you said it. Pick the day. I mean, even in 22 minutes, lately, he's been balling out.
Hasn't even mattered, right? Like he played less than a Kongwu, and he's just still smashing. And
26 minutes against Chicago and had 34 in that game.
So what I was going to say, that's important. Earlier in the year, Quinn Snyder, head coach of the Hawks, had commented on, I don't know what the context of the question was, but he basically said he doesn't think Onyeka Okongwu can handle bigger bodies.
Okay.
That's why you see Capella play and like get extended in some of those games.
So you think Vuk is just giving him a problem?
Yeah, I think that we're going to see a Capella extend. And obviously that hasn't held true necessarily, because if Okongwu's going good, they're not going to take him off the floor. But Capella's just smashed, like, regardless of what he's getting on the floor. So.
Right now he has, yeah. I mean, these could have been huge games of double doubles. Add another 3 points, to some of these totals here. You're almost at 40, so that's like an 8x play for Clint Capella maybe in this game with a 240 total.
Right,
that feels pretty good. Feels like a pretty good game. What else we got down here? Horford. I mean, would you just run Horford back at 4,800?
Yeah, it's possible.
I mean, dude, back-to-back games, 4 for 5, 5 of 10, 7-11, blocking. I mean,
love the minutes. Love the minutes.
The pricing is 4,800, 28, 26, 32, 25. Down game in 26 minutes against Atlanta, 31, 38. They said he is the oldest player in the NBA to have a 25-3 game or something like that with blocks.
If you look at Al Horford, every single game, I was just looking at this, every single game that he has played 30 minutes in this year, he's gone at least for 25 fantasy points. Every single game he has consistently, and he's below 5K. So yeah, I mean, yeah, just plain and simple. It's an in-season tournament game. You already laid out the stakes. They need to win this game. They obviously can do that with Neemias Queta if this game gets out of hand.
Certainly can.
But Horford also is he's too cheap for the possibility of him getting extended here. So I like the call.
47% from 3.
That's crazy. It's crazy.
So yeah, I like him there. Where are you on with Clean Gain here? 21 minutes in that game, did nearly double. They closed with Rob Will though, as we talked about.
Yeah, I mean he's been better lately, and it's been obviously where you expect it to be. He is grabbing a lot of rebounds when he's on the floor. He is blocking multiple shots when he's on the floor, and he's been effective enough offensively. I'm fine with it. It's not something that I'm like overly excited to play, but it's something that I'm fine with if that's where you end up.
Okay. Any other value centers for you?
I don't think so. I mean, Jackson Davis was really good the other day, but it's like one of those like in limited sample thing.
Sure.
So I don't think so.
Okay. Build a lineup.
Yeah, you can. Good luck.
Kyrie, I guess, right? Start off with Kyrie.
Sure. Yeah, I mean that's fine.
Start off with Kyrie. Value plays. What are we thinking here?
I mean, you could just like double up with Grimes or
you think it's Grimes or Hardy?
I mean, I think Grimes starts. If you want to play Amir Coffee, he's 4K.
Actually,
Torrey Craig is 45.
Coffee's a good one. I like Coffee here.
Jabari Smith 46, Coffee or Craig 45. Zaire would be in play. Wilson would be in play.
Yeah. I had one. Lindy Waiters. That was what it was. 3,600. He's been playing. That gets us. We'll just plug Giannis in there. Center. We go back down to Horford. 5,200 for a guard, forward, and util here. What are you thinking?
5,200 guard, forward, util. The guard value is pretty bad. So we definitely.
You did say Grimes. You did say Grimes, so we could do that.
Yeah.
Would you rather Grimes at 42 or would you play Clay at 58?
I mean, I'd prefer Clay. I just don't know where the other value plays are. Like
Clay gets us 5K at play for the final 2 spots,
which is like you could play Torrey Craig, or another forward in that range.
I'm good with Craig, and that's a $5,400 util. $5,400 util could be Wiggins, Capella.
Obviously, Banton would be a smash.
Banton, if someone's out, for sure.
Yeah.
You got a preference?
I mean, Capella only because we just don't know about
the $100 left over. Irving, Waiters, Coffee, Giannis, Horford, Clay, Craig, Capella, $100 left over. Gets us our Irving, Giannis stack there. Sounds good, right?
Yeah, I like it.
All right. Example line for everybody. We'll be back live at 5 p.m. Eastern time. We'll have the playbook out for all of you as well. Until then, leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, share, like. We'll talk to you later.